All right, so for my project, I'm interviewing veterans, talking about how long they served, where, and then I'm also going to be diving. This is like more my main focus, diving into like the mental health aspects of serving and the results afterwards. This isn't really going to be super structured talk. I kind of thought we would start at certain points, let's see where it goes, and then kind of guide it along to where I need to.
Yeah.
Is that good?
Yep.
Okay. So we can start with how long you served.
2 years, and then 48 days in Desert Storm.
Well, how long ago was that?
1990. Let's see, 1988 to 90, and then Desert Storm was in 91. 91.
Where was that? Like location wise?
I served, my station was in Georgia. I trained in Georgia, California, and in Africa.
Into Africa?
Yep.
Never knew that. Okay.
And the reason I went to Africa is in California is because I trained for rapid deployment desert warfare. So I was trained to be the first person on the ground anywhere in the world if it was in a desert environment, and that was my whole unit. That's what we did. So when Desert Storm happened, all the guys I knew were the first people there.
Did you join them soon?
What's that?
Did you join them, like being the first ones there, or?
No. So that was on August 3rd, 1990. And I didn't get called up to action until January 15th, 1991. And I went to Georgia, to Fort Benning, to get new clothes and a new haircut, and then went to Germany. So the thing that it doesn't make sense unless you know. So I got out of my full-time active duty. Mm-hmm. So in my lifetime, there was just a handful of us. We're the only people who were brought back in to the military to go into combat, probably since Vietnam. So I was on inactive duty, and they told me I was reactivated and to report to duty at Fort Benning, Georgia. So I went to Germany, and then Desert Storm ended so quickly. I was there 48 days, and I came home.
Didn't you get there like right after it ended, or is that a different one you told me about?
No, I had different events I was called up for. So one I got called up to go to Panama. Mm-hmm. I think that was in '88, and then I got called up in '89 to go to South America. And in both of those, the conflicts ended so quickly we never even made it there. So I got called up 3 times to go to combat, which is a lot in the last since Vietnam. People really haven't been called up to do stuff. Mm-hmm. A lot. But we have those wars, Afghanistan and a couple other places where people have just been there for a long time.
How many people do you think you've met during this?
During my time in the military?
Yep.
Holy crap. I mean, hundreds of people that I knew fairly decent, but you meet a lot more than that.
Yeah.
I was attached to another unit, so I had my unit. Let's say, so you got basic training. You train with 200 guys, so you get to know them fairly decent. And then I got to my station, and I had my unit. Then I got attached to another unit for about 4 months, so I got to know those guys. And then, because I went to the National Training Center in California and to Germany, I met more people. Mm-hmm. I had specialized training after basic for the Bradley Infantry Fighting Vehicle, so I met the people there. So I met a lot of people, but easily hundreds and hundreds of people that I knew when I was in there.
Okay. Do you usually got somewhat close to the people in your unit, but like not really anyone else?
No. It's so the military, at least the part I served in, because of the fact that you could go to war at any time in a unit like mine, you get pretty tight with the other guys pretty fast. It just doesn't. But like siblings, sometimes you fight just
Yeah.
like a brother or sister. But if someone else, just like a brother or sister, if someone else came up and started giving one of the guys in unit a hard time, you'd step up and defend them, even if they were in the wrong, because that's what you do.
How many people were in your unit?
Well, so there's a company. So it starts off. There's like your squad, which is
Mhm.
like I don't know, 5 or 8 people. But then I think four squads makes up. I forgot what they call that. Four squads is a group. I can't think what it's called. And then you have so many of those, and that makes up a company, which I think is probably like 200 guys. And then you have, I think the next level up is the battalion, and that's a bunch of companies all hooked together. I never did learn how many people are in a battalion, but it's a lot,
Okay.
and you all live right there together. So
Makes sense. So I know I'm pretty sure that you personally, while like doing all this, didn't have any issues with mental health or anything like that. Not this alone. Like that. From
huh. um, it was hard. Basic training was hard. I mean, I had guys that wanted to hurt me really bad. I mean, I had guys that disliked me so much that we used to pull guard duty in basic training unofficially to mainly to protect me from other people so I could sleep. So it was pretty strenuous, and that was all. I don't know where these guys were from. Some of them seemed to know each other, but it's because I didn't take any crap. Then I didn't put up with any bullshit. So some people wanted to be the bosses, wanted to be the leaders, and I didn't let that happen. And so they would, sometimes I'd get jumped by 4 or 5 guys in the bathroom or something like that, and stuff like that. I threw a guy down the stairs because him and a bunch of other guys grabbed me, and he got hurt. But I was just defending myself, and so that was really hard. There were um, there are people that just aren't designed for it. So one of the guys in my unit, when we got to the first live fire range with the M16s, he shot his own hand off right in front of me, and because he wanted to get out of the military.
mm-hmm.
So in a unit like mine, so my unit was all everyone was there were 200 guys, 190 of them were going into the to be airborne rangers.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty serious guys. And then there were 10 of us that were going to go to the specialized school for the Bradley Infantry Fighting Vehicle. So I think my basic training might have been a lot harder than some.
Yeah.
Because they were trying to get these guys ready to be serious soldiers. And I didn't sign up for that level. I signed up for 11 Bravo, regular ground soldier. And the Rangers are really they're a more elite unit. So that was hard. And then because I'm hard headed, because I have my own way of thinking about things, and I don't let people bullshit me. One of the problems I had while I was in there was with authority, because I had people who could tell me what to do. They could tell me anything they wanted to do, and I had to do it, no matter what. If I didn't like it, if I knew they were doing it on purpose just to be mean, because they completely own you. So that is really hard. So I got in some trouble, less trouble than I should have gotten in. The only reason I get in a lot of trouble is because I was pretty good at everything. And the guys who didn't like me realized if we went to combat, they wanted me there with them. So that kept me out of a lot of trouble. So it's high stress, and so what you see, and I think I've told you this before, is there are people that perform in the military and there are people that fail in the military. There's not much of a middle. There's people that accept the job, they do it, like I'm going to do my job every day and I'm going to do it well. Or at the very least, they've accepted it and they're going to do it.
Yeah.
in a positive fashion. And then there are the people that a lot of guys start drinking. A lot of guys don't show up for work, and then they get caught and they get in trouble. And guys get involved with drugs. They get involved with the girls off the military post who are there looking for sugar daddies and money, and some intentionally getting pregnant because they want someone to pay the bills. And then they got some girl that's taking all their money, and they have a baby, and maybe they're not even involved with the baby. But that's normal life.
Forgot it does that. Oh no, we're good. Still recording.
All right. So, because I had such a bad temper when I was younger, the most dangerous thing for me was physically went after quite a few people that outranked me, where I could have gone to military jail because they did things, in my opinion, that were outside of the scope of being in the military, or outside of proper behavior. So there's a lot of stress with that, thinking you could go to jail, but trying to make sure trying not to let the world treat you in a way that it shouldn't treat you. But you've signed a contract where people can tell you what to do.
Yeah.
And so I think in some ways I was lucky I made it through it without getting in a lot of trouble. Got my honorable discharge.
That's what I've heard, definitely.
No one killed me. I did. I made some enemies.
I think when I go, I'm not gonna like take it to your extreme. I don't think where I'm gonna like get mad at people, but I tend to not listen to people in charge of me at all, on average at least. So I think that's gonna be one of my issues for when I serve, but I'm not super worried about that.
I made a decision because your Uncle Buster and I really kind of a Canary bloodline thing. I think we had big chips on our shoulders. We were the toughest guys, and no one was going to tell us what to do. And I had to make the decision that if I was told to do something, I was going to do it, unless it was something outside the scope of what I thought they should be telling me to do.
Yeah.
So an example of that is, I don't want to be the best example. The one that comes to mind is we had been up for 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
And we were training really hard. Everyone was exhausted, and the captain of my company said to stand down, which meant, all right, it's time to get some sleep. We're all tired. And there was a guy he wasn't with us very long, and he said to us, to like 5 of us, grab all your stuff, grab your backpack, your gun, grab all your stuff, and go climb to the top of that mountain right there and set up an observation post, which meant go up there, split up into, I'm going to look in this direction from here to here, from that treetop to that house or whatever, and you're going to look, and you sit there and you just look. And if you see anything, you write it down, anything of consequence. And which is good military training, but he was doing it because he wanted the ranking people above him to see that he was making us do more stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so I disagreed with that. We all just worked really hard for about 3 days. We're exhausted, and it was time to sleep. And I said to him, I don't think we're doing that. We're all exhausted. You're just trying to make yourself look good by making us work so hard. And the thing is, when they say sleep, in the unit I was in, Rapid Deployment Desert Warfare, you don't know if it's sleep for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You don't know if it's for a day. You have no idea. You have no idea. And so when they say, stand down and get some rest, guys, you really need to. And so anyhow, I told the guy, I think it was, I told him I disagreed with it very strongly. And he was a big guy, huge guy, actually. He came up and he put his hand on my face and he shoved me. And I had all my gear on already, because while I was arguing with him, I was still getting my stuff on.
I think I've heard this one before.
Yeah, and so he shoved me, knocked me on the ground, and then I lost my temper. Then, luckily, I had a good group of friends, and they all jumped me and told him to get in the tank and lock it up. And he didn't know me very well, but he got it from them pretty quick. He misstepped. So you get stressed like that, and if you have my kind of temper, and my temperament, and you feel like you've been wronged, like he was at fault. Um, and then he could have pressed. I could have gotten in trouble.
Yeah.
And then depending on how much trouble, and so that's stressful because it's serious. Because I guess it's like that in the real world too. But in the military, it's very different because they have you. Like I told you, you can get a job in the real world and quit it, and they can't do anything. They just quit. In the military, you can't just quit, and you got to put up with all that kind of crap.
Yeah.
So overall, it's a good experience. But when you have
Mm-hmm.
people who are like that outrank you, and I had a number of them. My last, the last thing that happened to me in the military, I was on guard duty for a month. I think it was a month, which meant being up for 24 hours guarding equipment, and then you get 24 hours off to sleep and come back, on and off, on and off. And so I said to the guy who didn't like me, everyone else went to California again. All the guys I knew, and we were staying back, and we were guarding what they call the motor pool, where all the tanks are, and the Humvees and all that. So I said to him, "Hey, I just want to go off post and go do something." And to be a jerk, no real reason. He said no. And I was like, come on, I got like 8 days left in the military. I just want to go down and maybe see some of the guys I know and whatever. And nope. And he was complete ass about it. So I got up in his face and I said, when I sign out of the military at midnight on Friday, I'm coming to you, and you're going to the hospital. And he knew I meant it. He knew me. He knew who I was. He heard the stories. And so I went to sign out of the military at midnight. And they go, "You Specialist Canary?" "Yep." "You need to go talk to the sergeant major," which is someone you don't ever want to go talk to. I mean, that's so far above my rank. It's no one I would ever need to go talk to. Part of me thought they were going to try to get me to re-enlist again because they offered me like $25,000 and all kinds of stuff. So I go to his office, and he said, "Hey, I have a report here that you've threatened so-and-so. That as soon as you sign out, you're going to go and do some stuff, and it's not going to go well for him or whatever." And I was like, yep, because he's a fucking dick, and he needs to be taught a lesson. So I'm going to go teach him a lesson. And so the sergeant major said to me, "If you touch him, I will make sure you end up in military prison. So I'm telling you what you need to do. You need to sign out, you need to get in your car, and you need to get off this post." So even the last thing I did in the military, I could have gone to prison.
Dang.
Yeah. And that's not, it's just, not so much now, but even though I still have a sense of right and wrong, it's one of the reasons I'm a lawyer.
Yeah.
If you see something you think's terribly wrong and you have a law degree, you can do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't like it when people use their power and authority over other people when you know it's wrong. And that guy had no reason not to let me leave that day. Not a big deal, but him and I didn't get along the whole time I was in there. But we had never fought about anything or whatever. But anyhow, he knew who I was. He knew I was a tough guy, and he wanted to be a dick, and so he was a dick. So I didn't go find him because I did want to be able to leave.
Yeah.
But I have a lot of stories. I am so lucky that I didn't get in more trouble than I did, because I got in some trouble, not much.
Yeah. Based off what I've heard, I don't think I've heard all of it, I'm assuming. But
I don't even know all of them, Dylan. They just come to mind.
Yeah. What about people around you? Did you see anyone like in your unit or that you just knew struggling with mental health while they were serving?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So there's different types, right? So there's someone that you would just call crazy. When I got there, the first person I had a negative encounter with at my final post, because you have basic training, which is all separate, really doesn't have a lot to do with the rest of your time, and you do your 12 weeks, 16 weeks, whatever, and then you go to your post where you're going to live. And I got there, and I think it was the first night there. I'm in bed, and there is some guy running up and down the hall, and he's banging on all the doors, and he's screaming and hollering. And of course, with my temper, I get up, open the door, and I'm like, "The hell are you doing?" He comes up, he gets in my face. "Who are you?" I tell him. We go back and forth a little bit, and he's like, "What are you going to do about it?" That kind of thing. And I was like, "Well, I guess I'm going to have to kick your ass because you're going to shut the fuck up because we're all trying to sleep." And he looks at me, and then he's all tense, and then he relaxes. "I like you. All right, I'm going to go to bed." The next day, everyone tells me his name is Hunter. He used to be in gangs. He was in the military because he was given the option to go to jail or be in the military because he was
Right.
the leader of a drug group, and he was considered very dangerous. And he was the type of person to have weapons in his car, and he would go off and he would do stuff, and people were like, "Oh my God, what's that guy doing?" But he was mentally unstable,
Yeah.
mentally unstable. So I was really lucky that he liked the fact that I stood up to him. And then we got along. He was only in the military maybe like another 2 months,
Hmm.
and then he was gone, which was good because he was crazy. I mean, he was crazy. And then there are people who are like there. I think there was a kid that came in. I think he was probably on the spectrum for autism,
Yep.
but they didn't know back then. Really smart in the sense, well, there's different types of intelligence, but he could memorize anything. He could memorize anything. He knew everyone's dates of birth, their legal names, their social security numbers, anything you told him. He could. If you looked at your ID card or something, and he'd be like, we called him. His name was Spencer. I think I nicknamed him Ghost, and everyone called him Ghost. I don't know, because he was really white. He was like one of these nerdy indoor types,
Yeah.
and I think the name stuck. But he was like I had to look after him because he was kind of odd. He didn't quite catch what was going on around him. He was a little slow in some respects, even though he had that part of his brain that worked. So back then we didn't recognize it. Today you say, "I think that guy's autistic," and I don't know if that's even the right word, but it seems
Yeah.
like it probably be the right word. Then there were the guys who, mental health issues. They couldn't take the military. They couldn't take that long hours and the not knowing when you were going to work hard and not knowing if you're going to jump on a plane and fly somewhere, and then not be when that happens, you can't contact your family, and you didn't know if you were sleeping in your bed in a tent. You never knew what was going to happen. So, and then you had the issues with people that outranked you that were jerks, and of course you had just the job itself. The job itself was hard, and so there were guys who just couldn't handle that, so they turned to alcohol and drugs, and a lot of guys just hated it. They just wanted to get out of the military. They hated it, and it would have been better for them to get out. But the military needs numbers, so they don't just let people out. And if they did, then a lot of people would just be like, "Yeah, I don't like this. I'm leaving." And you can't run a military like that. So I get it, and I imagine that some of those I wouldn't have recognized it back then probably so much. Well, maybe, but there were definitely guys that were, I would say, clinically depressed.
Hmm.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to think who I knew that. I mean, there were guys I was concerned were going to kill themselves. And I'd tell other people, and we'd talk to them and hang out with them, and all that kind of stuff. Like there was a guy, I don't remember his name was. He was the driver in the tank that I was in for a good chunk of my time in there. And there are times I thought the guy, even when I left the military, I was like, dude, I probably didn't say it directly, but I was like, hey, don't kill yourself. If you've got a real problem, go get some help. Because I knew I was leaving and I wasn't going to be there to support him.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like any place you go, there's going to be people with all kinds of problems. It's a matter of how much you're paying attention.
Well, is that the main one you encountered out of, like most the like big mental health issues you see? Tend to see in the military.
I mean,
Like, well,
what did I see the most?
yeah, is that like out of the main ones? Is that the one like you noticed the most?
Depression?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I would say so because that's probably what the alcohol and the drugs and the bad attitudes and real depression, because there's depression and people think there's real depression. Um, I would say not clinic. There's definitely some people with clinical depression, but then there are people who are just down on the whole thing. Like a teenager that doesn't get their own way, except it lasts for years. You don't get your own way every single day. Yeah.
What about PTSD or anxiety? Ever encounter someone with either of those that you're aware of?
I don't know. I have to think about that. So I knew guys that had been in for a while, but I
Mm-hmm.
don't know that I knew any people in the military that had been in combat.
Oh,
I knew guys that were in different branches. I mean, some of the older guys I would imagine were, but I didn't like hang out with them. They probably outranked me, or they get out, so probably
yeah.
wasn't hanging around with them. No, I can't. I'm trying to think who I knew outside the military, outside of
Yeah.
being in the military, because I have met people that experienced post-traumatic stress disorder, but I'm trying to think who. I never became good friends with any of them, so I don't have any good friends that fall into that.
I'm thinking it's the same for anxiety. Don't really know about that. At least military wise.
Well, I mean, I think everyone has anxiety, so it's just a matter of levels.
That's true.
Yeah. I mean, we have a couple relatives that have really bad anxiety.
Okay.
They can barely even function. I don't know that I would have noticed anxiety when I was younger.
Mhm.
I don't think it was, because I don't, I just do stuff and I get through it and whatever.
Mhm.
So I wasn't really, I wouldn't have paid attention to anxiety back then.
Yeah.
I just thought someone was acting like a fool or something. That's probably what it is. Straighten up. Get it right, soldier.
What got you to join, like, your branch, military in general?
Well, kind of like what I think you're doing. I didn't put much effort into it. I had my grandfather was in the army. My father was in the army. My uncle was in the army. My cousin was in the army. My cousin served in Vietnam. Um, he saw some really bad stuff. I don't know if he. I assume he had post-traumatic stress disorder, but I never saw it.
Hmm.
Although he died of a massive heart attack at 41
Oh,
while I was in the military, which broke my heart because him and I were pretty close. Um, I forgot what the question was.
what got you to join?
No. So my friends are going off to college. I knew I was not ready for that. I think if I went to college, I would have just had fun, and it would have cost a lot of money. And I couldn't afford to go.
Yeah.
And so my mother didn't have any money. So I knew I could get money for college by going in. And of course, I got a super high ASVAB score, so they offered me a sweet deal. I mean, I don't know of any time in U.S. history in my lifetime where you could sign up for 2 years.
Okay.
Never heard of it.
We need
And I got that high score, and they said, "Hey, for people with scores like yours, we have this program. You can sign up for 2 years."
Hmm.
I was like, "What? Well, 2 years is pretty fast." And then they offered me a bunch of money for college. So, and I needed to grow up.
Yeah.
Because I knew so I wanted to be a lawyer, but I didn't think I could be because I didn't think I was a good enough student. And so I needed time, and I needed to grow and mature a little bit or a lot. In some ways, I was, macho young guy with the big chip on his shoulder.
Yeah, I always wondered why you're only in for 2 years. I kind of assumed that maybe, like, the rest of your thing was reserves or whatever. Never really asked.
No, it's just. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the score. I think the max score was 130,
Mm-hmm.
and I got a 129. I think it was.
Oh, wow.
So I about maxed it out. And then what was great was when I got in the military is when I realized that I could learn things really fast when I wanted to. I didn't know that when I was in high school because I was a horrible student on average. But I got in the military and they would teach us something, and then I'd have it, and they would teach it over and over and over again. I'd be like, "Oh my God, what are they doing?" Just we learned that. It took like 3 minutes to learn that. And then when I went to the school to learn about the Bradley, you get a book that's about 1,000, 1,500 pages, and I learned what I needed to learn really fast. When people are like, "You know all that already?" Yeah. So I remember they would sit around, and there was another guy that was like that, and they would ask us each of us questions out of the blue. Hey, how many track pads are on the left side of the Bradley? How many gallons of fuel does it hold? How far can it travel on that? Anyhow, so then I got in there. I matured some. I made the decision to do well, and learned that I could memorize stuff pretty fast. And while I was in there, I took 2 college courses, and I learned those to start learning how to actually do schoolwork. I'm not saying I didn't do schoolwork in high school, because I did, but
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to do well. And I knew if I wanted to go to law school, I didn't have to just do schoolwork. I had to do well at it. So.
What'd you study in college while you were serving?
That's a good question. One of them was an English class.
Mm-hmm.
I think the other one might have been some kind of psychology class.
Oh.
Post-traumatic stress disorder. I never had that, but the military life is so different from, what do they call that? Being back in society.
Civilian life.
Civilian life, yeah. I was only in for 2 years, but it probably took me a year to feel normal again.
Yeah.
So when I first got out, I couldn't sit down. I couldn't sit still. I felt like I didn't have a purpose, like I needed to go do stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And all the people around me didn't seem like they have a purpose, because they would just get some stuff done, but then they'd sit around a lot. And no one was telling me what to do, which was really odd, because they have you so planned out.
Yeah.
And so even without post-traumatic stress disorder, coming out from just 2 years, it's really fast. It took me that long just to calm back down and become a civilian again, and be able to relax, like actually relax. Because I think in the military, you were ready to go 100% of the time, because you never knew. And
yeah.
Because I was in that unit, and because the first year I was in, I got called up to combat. Even if you don't go into combat, when they say, we're going, right? You're going. And you're thinking, okay, am I going to live? Am I going to die? How bad's it going to be? Am I going to watch people die? Am I going to have to kill people? Because it's on, right? It's not training anymore. So when they're like, hey, we're packing up, going to Panama. And you're like, okay, what are we going to do in Panama? And then, a year later, we're like, okay, pack up. We're going to South America. There's been an uprising, and we're going to quell it. We're going to settle the people down on behalf of the government. And then, of course, those were quick. Those were really quick. It was like within 48 hours, I knew I wasn't going to combat. So I had, 2 days of thinking we were going, and talking to the other guys about what we thought it was going to be like. But then the one Desert Storm, I don't know, probably had about 30 days to think about what was going to happen and what was going to be like. But I think it was probably less than that. We were hearing on the news that, their weapons weren't that good, and they weren't, their the military was grossly exaggerated, and because we had prepared for something that was going to be pretty serious, and it didn't turn out to be that way.
Okay. Well,
So it's still quite a change to leave the military and come back into the civilian world.
I'm definitely going to want to get more in depth on like your altering back to that life. But while we're still like some on the topic of beforehand and like what you did during military, what got you to pick the job you did?
It's the job that I knew my family members had done. That was the main thing. And because I was a young guy with a big ego, having a backpack and a machine gun sounded pretty cool.
Yeah.
That was my vision of a soldier. And being young and healthy and strong and fast and all that, I thought I was well suited to it. That's why.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
Yeah, I didn't. So when the recruiter said to me, "You can do anything, like you can do any job," I didn't take the time to go, well, educate me about those jobs. What do you mean, any job? Because they showed me some stuff, but I was so not interested because I had made up my mind.
Yeah.
But an older, more mature version of me would have said, educate me on all of them. We'll see if something grabs my attention. So I would have given the other things an opportunity versus just saying, I've made up my mind. Which is why I tell you, how much time are you going to put into a decision you're going to make that commits you for 4 years? You're going to put in an hour of time? You're going to put in 40 hours? The more time you put into it, the more satisfied you're going to be with your decision.
Mm-hmm.
And if you get in there and you get people that outrank you that are just world-class assholes, which can happen anyway, right? There's no, you can get that, like your job that you had at Five Guys. The boss there sounds like a real piece of work.
I think he was.
So take that guy, give him a rank, and he gets to tell you to do whatever he wants you to do.
Mm-hmm.
I told you the story about digging the full-size grave with the little military shovel.
Yeah.
We had been up. We had been up probably like a day and a half. We had done a recon mission where we cut through the woods. We went to someone else's camp, wrote down all the stuff we saw, and we came back. And it took the whole entire overnight, and then into the next day, and we get back. And we're all tired. And he told me and that other guy to dig a full-size grave, put it in it, fill it back in. And then he told us to dig it up. And that's when I lost my temper. And that's when he said, all right, Ben, I'm done. I'm done screwing with you. Okay, good. Sergeant Smith rode my ass the entire time he knew me.
Do you remember most of the names of the people you met?
Well, not most of them. Well, I remember a lot of them. They come to mind.
Randomly, that like if you try to think about it, you can't really remember them. But
no,
I mean, or
no, I mean like so. And everyone uses last names. You don't learn a lot of first names.
Yeah.
It's all Harms. Like he was a guy, couple, in my unit. Yeah, so, but I don't know. Anyhow, in the course of time, names just pop into my head of guys. Mm-hmm. I had my core group of guys.
Yeah.
Like in high school, it's just like high school or college. You get your core group, the people you know, like, and trust, and you spend your time hanging out with them and stuff. Mm-hmm. It's really not any different. It's just that you all live together and you go work together and you come back from work and sometimes you do stuff together on the weekends when you actually get one. Which I didn't get. I would say not quite half of my weekends I worked while I was in there in the 2 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Huh.
And you don't know if you're getting nights off.
Yeah.
They literally tell you, they literally do stuff like this. Get all your stuff and, have a great weekend. And everyone's picking up their stuff and you're walking out the door and they go, nope, just kidding, come back in. And then you're off doing something.
Yeah.
And you might have called someone and said, hey, like I could call my mom. Hey, Mom, I'm getting out of here in like 10 minutes. I'm going to head home. I'll be up tomorrow midday. And then you're off, gone somewhere, and you can't communicate, and you can't call anyone to say, nope, not coming.
That sucks.
I met a girl, Cinnamon.
Mm-hmm.
She's cute. She was at an art school in Savannah, Georgia. And her and I made plans for dates like 6 times. And then she told me, no thanks. I didn't make any of them. So it's that kind of thing. You like someone, you want to hang out with them. Her and I hung out like twice, and then it didn't work out all those times. And then she's like, yeah, I can't do this military girlfriend thing. That's not working. Fair enough.
Do you still keep in contact with anyone you met while you're serving?
Yeah, so Bill Hargrove
mm-hmm.
was my best friend in there. And so him and I stay in contact. And then the second to him would be a guy named Kevin Moose. So Kevin is in Florida right now. He's into finance. I think he does pretty well. He got married, had a kid, got divorced, unfortunately. So he was a functional alcoholic.
Wow.
In the military. And he enjoyed the military. He just happened to be an alcoholic. I mean, he would drink he drank so much he peed on his roommate because he couldn't figure out where the bathroom was. So he didn't know what he was doing. And he had peed on the wall. He peed on his bed. Oh my God. Passed out in the bathroom when he was taking a dump. We'd find him all over the place. Great guy, great personality, good human being, just alcohol.
Yeah.
Which he was adopted, and his parents that adopted him were crazy.
Oh.
We met him, and I was like, okay, we understand, buddy. And Bill's from California. He moved to Georgia. He just moved back to California. Found that out about a week ago. I wrote him. I said, "Hey, we're trying to plan a family vacation, and maybe we'll head down towards where you are." And he said, "I'm not there anymore. I'm back in California." I would keep track of more guys, but
Mhm.
it's all a time thing.
Yeah.
It's all a time thing. Just like college, I got Dave Cole, Craig Kellogg, and Steve
Yep.
Filippi. I knew a lot of other decent people that I enjoyed, but
Those are the big
that's what I
ones.
do. I mean, even in high school, I usually get 2 or 3 people that I'm really close with, and everyone else are just friends. I think that's just how I do things.
Mhm.
Like around here now, I have a handful of a small group of guys that I really enjoy, and the rest of the people are just friends.
When you joined, did you lose any like connections you had with people before you did?
Yeah, most everybody. Yeah, most everyone except my family. And I mean, 'cause when I left, I had friends that were off at college, and I wasn't seeing them much.
Mhm.
Um, and then the friends that didn't go to college that were hanging around Newport, I stopped seeing them. Yeah, I got back when I got back from the military. I got to see some people again, but when I was in the
Yeah.
military, I really didn't communicate with them. Probably saw them. The people I saw the most was probably maybe 4 times in the 2 years for short, briefly.
Wow.
No phone calls, I don't think. Certainly no writing.
Yeah.
Now, modernly, though, with email and all these, texting and all that, I think probably it would be different. It creates a new
Okay.
dynamic because
Yeah.
you could be sitting around hanging out with your friends and
Mhm.
communicating with your old friends.
Like Riley did with the Zoom calls,
Yeah,
stuff like that.
yeah, that was great.
Yeah,
That must have made it easier transition because
almost likely.
leaving home, there's a lot of people that leave home and they get homesick and they want anything. The thing they want most in the world is to go home. But when you leave the house, part of raising a kid is they should be able to leave and feel like they're going to make it wherever.
Yeah. How long do you think it took you to get used to the like new military life? Like when you had just joined.
Well, basic training was just all shock and awe. I mean, that was just more intense than it should have been.
Yeah.
Then when I got to my unit, it was like going to college or anything else. You meet new people, you got a new place to live, you got a new boss, you got to learn the lay of the land, the things you can do, you cannot do, learn their expectations. I bet it took 6 months probably to feel like,
wow.
oh, okay, all right, I see how this works. And then, of course, what's good is you get new people coming in, and you know more than them, right?
Mhm.
And they don't know how much you know, but you know more than them. So that automatically, and it's constant because there's guys that outrank you that have been there a long time. They're leaving, and you got new guys coming in, and it's a constant turnover. And but you'll have the guys that you're there with for years, but there's still that mix. So I think as people leave that outrank you, that know you're a new guy, and you get the new guys coming in, you feel like you're raised in status. So yeah, it probably took 6 months for some of that to happen, and for me to learn what I should do and what I shouldn't do, and what I was supposed to do.
You fully listen to the what you shouldn't do part.
Mm. Well, when I see something that I disagree with adamantly, it's really hard to leave it alone.
Yeah. I get that.
But it's paid off. I mean, so when I went back in for Desert Storm,
Mhm.
so I'd been in the military. I was considered a soldier, right?
Mhm.
I didn't just go to basic. I went and I was a soldier, what they call a soldier. I get out in August of 1990. I go back in January of 91. I go back to Fort Benning, where most people that go in the Army train initially. So, hundreds of thousands of people go through there, probably millions, really.
Yeah.
And I get there, and the drill sergeants are yelling and screaming at us and treating us like we're brand new guys, right? So, if you don't have someone like me, that's just what would have happened. But I stopped and I called a meeting, I don't have a right to call a meeting, but I did. And fortunately for me, people tend to listen to me. So they stopped, and I said, I'm not putting up with this bullshit. I'm a soldier. They treat me like I'm a new kid off the block. This is bullshit. I'm not doing anything more until this changes. So the drill sergeant's like, you guys got to, blah, blah. I said, you know what? We're not doing anything. Go get your commander. And they're like, you can't. I'm like, we're not doing anything. Go get your commander. Because this isn't going to work this way.
Mm-hmm.
So they went and got whoever was in charge, which I think was a first sergeant. And I just told them with all due respect, you've got these drill sergeants treating soldiers who are getting ready to go serve their country overseas in combat like the new recruits. And, I probably said a little more than that. And the first sergeant said, I am so sorry. You are absolutely correct. You are all soldiers. We've never done this before. You've never done this before. From this moment forward, we're just going to treat you like soldiers, and we're going to work this out. So you need people like that.
Yeah.
You need people who are willing to step up, even if they're going to get in a lot of trouble. But I can't. I've been in companies. I've done the same thing in big companies that I've worked for, where I've called a meeting and I've got everyone to stop working, and we've bargained it out with the people that run the company. Same thing in the military.
What was the first thing you did when you got out?
Went down and saw my dad in Florida. So actually, I signed out, I told you that story.
Yeah.
So I didn't leave post. I hung out with some, I still stayed in my friends' rooms.
Yep.
And so I signed out on July 28th. Mm-hmm. And on August 2nd, they called everyone up for combat. So back then they used to at that time, they had some words that they would say. And I'm not going to put them on tape. But if someone went around yelling that, it meant, get your shit, we're leaving. We're going. Like, it's on. And so I was there, and someone went through and yelled, and, and I was like, oh, man, you guys are heading out. So I had to leave because everyone was leaving. So I went to Florida, and the next day, or maybe 2 days, I saw that we were in Saudi Arabia, and I saw the tanks, and it was all my guys, because all the tanks have markings on them. And it was my unit, and of course, that's what we trained for. So I knew we'd be first there.
Yeah.
So that was August 3rd. August 3rd, I think, was the official start of that war. So I went to my dad's, and I hadn't spent much time with him because he lived in Florida, and I didn't. I probably spent, I don't know, I bet I stayed down there like 2 months.
Okay.
Yeah. Spent some time with my dad.
Did you come back up here?
And then I came back up here, and there were no jobs. Oh, my God, it sucks so bad.
Really?
Yeah. I literally put in hundreds of job applications. Hundreds. And the only job I didn't want to get, because it was such a joke, was at McDonald's. But the only job I could find was McDonald's. So I worked at McDonald's because I needed a job for my $4.78 an hour, if I remember correctly. $4.78 an hour. It actually turned out to be a good job.
That's good.
I mean, I did the front, I worked at the register and the French fries or something for almost no time at all. And then they put me into management because my military background.
Yeah.
I'm like, do this, do that. I could tell people what to do, and people would listen to me. So, came home, got a job, and I lived with my mom for, I'd say over a year, but I really don't know if that's true or not. Oh, longer than that. Because I started college.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I worked at McDonald's. McDonald's gave me a scholarship for college, $500. That was nice. And then I started college, and I think after 3 semesters, Steve Filippi said, hey, let's rent an apartment together down in Keene. And I'm like, I can't afford that. And he said, well, you're going to quit that stupid McDonald's job. You're going to come work with me and make some real money. So I went and worked with him, and I went from, I think, like $7 an hour to like $16 an hour.
Wow.
Yeah. But that was hard, too, because that was full-time nights.
Yeah.
Seriously hard physical labor the whole entire night. It was absolutely exhausting. And I'm literally lucky I didn't die before I finished college because I worked myself that hard. I worked really hard at that job. and I was getting straight A's and trying to have some fun in between. So that's how it went. Got out, went and saw my dad, came home, got the McDonald's job, had some fun with some friends, started school, and was working, commuting, trying to get good grades, moved to Keene, working at the other place, but then that was much harder physical work.
Yeah.
And I had some fun with my friends.
What do you think you would have done if you never went to the military?
I could have gone to jail, Dylan. I could have gone to jail. I was breaking the law in my vehicle. I was breaking all kinds of laws driving, and I was getting into fights. I was the impetus for the largest riot that's ever happened in Claremont, New Hampshire. And I was hanging out with the guys on Harleys that carried guns, knives, and drugs who got into crazy fights. I had guns pulled on me so many times, either by people who were bad people or people who were cops. And it was all fun for me, really. I enjoyed it, but I thought it was stupid because I wanted to get in trouble and I wanted to be a lawyer. So, the personality between a person who has a criminal type mind and a lawyer, I don't think is all that different. It's just a matter of which way you go.
Yeah.
You think they'd be opposite ends of a spectrum, but I think they're right next door to each other. They're right here. It's that one guy's how can I break the law and get away with it, and the other side of it is how can I read the law and get away with it? Like, what am I trying to? I'm trying to win for my client. It's kind of the same. It's kind of the same strategy. So I don't think those things are all that different. I really could have, if I hung out with the wrong people long enough. But like when I was in my Harley phase, the last time I hung out with those guys, we went from Newport, New Hampshire to Windsor, Vermont on our bikes. We sped all the way, and we drove right down the middle of the road, and cars were just driving off the road everywhere, like into ditches and stuff. And we went to a bar. It was New Year's Eve, so it was cold. And I'm going to say about 10 state trooper cars pulled in. And they all had 2 cops in them, and they opened the doors, and they got out all the guns, and they pointed at us, and they said, put your hands in the air, don't make any sudden movements, blah, 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 blah. And they got really heated, like someone's going to pull the fucking trigger, and people are going to die.
Oh, wow.
The only thing that saved it was this last state trooper pulled in, the car pulled in slow, and a guy got out, and it was an old guy. If you watch themes in movies, you're going to see the young cops and the young gangsters and whatever, and they act a certain way, and everyone shoots each other. But if you get the old guy who sees how things work, and they know how to get out of it. So this guy comes in, he's obviously in charge, and he says, I want all you guys to put your weapons away. So all the cops put their weapons away. And he has a tone of voice that's different, because the other cops are all, let's get louder, let's get it scarier, let's get it amped up. And he was like, we're going to bring it down. Going to bring it down. So these guys aren't going to take out their guns, and they're not going to give up anything. And I'm like, okay, how's this going to go? So the old cop knew how it was going to go, so he did it the way he thought he should. He said, so which one of you guys should I be talking to? Like, who's in charge? And so, Bill. Hey, Bill, how's it going tonight? And he goes, well, I got some problems, Bill. I got a 90-year-old woman in a ditch down here in a car about having a heart attack because you guys scared the hell out of her. She drove off the road. Another problem is, my understanding, you were all speeding excessively. And I'm pretty sure you guys probably have some weapons you're not supposed to have. And if we were to check, you probably have some drugs. But all of that goes, what's your intention here tonight? And and Bill said, we just wanted to go in and have a drink and, say hi to some people and, whatever, something like that. And the cop says, I tell you what, you guys go in there and you have one drink. It should take you, 20 minutes, half hour? and you're going to come out here and you're going to get on your bikes and you're going to drive legally on the correct side of the road at the speed limit out of this state. And if you guys do that, we're done here. But you got to do that. If that guy hadn't shown up, I am certain, I am absolutely certain it was going to go downhill, and it was going to go downhill fast because I was waiting for the bullets to fly. And that's when I said, I'm going to law school. That's what I had made my, I wanted to be a lawyer and I wanted to, go to college and do well and all that. But after that, I'm like, okay, these guys are fun, but they're freaking crazy, and they don't have any futures and whatever. And I wanted to do better than that. So I decided, yeah, I'm done. And I didn't hang out with those guys anymore.
So the military really did put you down like a much better path.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Yeah. Your Uncle Buster and I didn't start off making good decisions when we were younger. And I decided to do better in some respects. My first decision was in the military, that I had to follow the rules unless I thought someone was being an asshole. And then after that, I was like, okay, I'm done I'm done breaking the law.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to follow the law and go get my law degree before I get in so much trouble that I can't get a law degree. And I wanted to do well. That's why, I get the grades I did in college, and I got into a good law school.
So earlier when you were talking about your career, you said that you kind of wish that you had like listened to him more. Is there anything else you like regretted from your time serving? Or would you say you wouldn't change anything?
Well, I'm glad I met a lot of people I met,
Mm-hmm.
and certainly trained for something important. But I think the only real regret was not looking at all the possibilities.
Yeah.
All the possibilities. Because as I told you, if you're going to do something, it's going to take a certain amount of time. How much time are you going to put into research it? Just so you know the possibilities. And because then if you know all the possibilities, here's a simple example. It'll relate. You're going to go on vacation somewhere.
Yeah.
You don't do any research. You get there and you see something and you go, oh, let's go do that because it's right there. And maybe when you get there, you do some research, but it's quick because you want to go do stuff. And by the time you leave, you're like, oh my God, had we known, we would have gone over there. We would have gone to that resort. We would have hiked that mountain. And did you know there's a place you can rent a bike over there? And so 5 hours of research to figure out what you want to do on your vacation might make your vacation way better.
Mm-hmm.
Versus coming home knowing, God, I don't know if I'm ever going there again, because you're only going to take so many vacations. It's the same thing. But that's something you learn as you get older. If you're going to do something, research it, maybe even over-research it, but then you're going to be happy with the result.
Yeah.
And so I chose that job because it's what my family did.
Mm-hmm.
And when you think about a soldier, on average, when I was younger, I think people thought of soldier as backpacking a gun. And of course now there's a lot more technology kind of jobs and stuff. And I don't even know what there was back then, but I certainly could have done something that would have been involved more of my brain and my skill set dealing with people.
Yeah.
But I can't say I really regret it. I mean, I was well suited to it. I mean, sometimes I wish instead of doing that, I went Navy SEAL or Green Berets or something like that. But then, God, that stuff's so hard on your body.
Oh yeah, it is.
And my body, I think my back hurts. My feet are flat and my back hurts from some of the time in the military. By the time I got out, my feet and my back hurt. And I was only in there 2 years. But I worked really hard because I did want to beat everybody at everything.
Yeah.
I literally wanted to beat everybody at everything that we did.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why I was offered to try out for the Green Berets.
That makes sense.
Towards the end of my time there, Bill was too. Bill and I were two people in our battalion that were recommended to make that change. And they told me about that, and I said, yeah, that sounds great, but I'm going to college. I'm going to be a lawyer.
Did Bill do it?
No, he wanted to get out too.
Before you joined, do you think there was anything that like prepared you physically or mentally for serving? Or do you think you just happened to like have the personality type and just were overall ready?
Well, so I was very used to having any number of family members tell me what to do and totally expected to do it. You know, if the phone rang and it was Aunt Betty and she said, "Grandpa said," and whatever it was, "Grandpa wants you to," or it could be Uncle Gary, "Hey, I need you to come over and we're going to go do," or my cousin David, or my Aunt Bobby, if anyone called, it was just expected you were going to just go do it, whatever it was.
Yep.
It wasn't a question. It was go do it. And then another thing is, I spent a lot of time with my uncle Gary and my grandfather Ben Sickle and my cousin David Curtis, who was my cousin, but he was a much older cousin.
Mm-hmm.
And mainly Gary and David harassed me full time, all the time, and physically and mentally. And then the guys that I worked with logging, same thing, bunch of hardcore tough guys. So I'll give you an example. So hard stuff. The skidder broke. It was the winter. It was probably colder than 30 below with the wind chill. And we had to fix the skidder because my uncle said, the skidder's sitting here, we can't make any money, so we got to fix it. We got to fix it today. So we're laid out and we're out in the middle of this big open area, and the wind is just blowing. And a lot of it you can't have your gloves on because of the stuff you're trying to do. But there's all kinds of stuff like that where it just sucks so freaking bad, and even painful. But the mindset was, if you got to do it, you just do it. So you do it. And so your grandfather, my father, had a very bad reputation in my hometown.
Mm-hmm.
So at my younger years growing up, it was not a good last name to have.
Yeah.
In many respects. So I would say starting as far back as I can remember in school, I got jumped all the time by groups of guys. Mm-hmm. And it was their parents telling them that if you knew a canary, I don't know, beat them up, I guess. So that happened right up until, I would say, the end of 6th grade.
Oh,
I got in hundreds and hundreds of fights that I did not choose to be in. And I remember the kids. It was the Roby family, the Pratts, the Simpsons, the Macy's. These are all kids that dropped out of school before 8th grade because they came from families that were that bad, which is unfortunate. But my dad hung out with those families and was apparently quite a piece of work. And he got in trouble with the law a lot too. Yeah. And so I was physically tough because I had to be.
Yep.
And mentally tough. Very fit, which helps. It doesn't get you through the military, but it doesn't hurt to be physically fit.
Yeah.
Because when other people are feeling a lot of pain, you might be doing better than them. So I think I was very well suited to it. And I happen to have a good brain. I think fast. I learn really quick. Mm-hmm. And I have what I would say are natural leadership qualities. So I was a very good fit. I was such a good fit that people that didn't know me well thought I was a lifer. Most people, when I was coming to the end of my term, and people were like, "You're re-enlisting, right?" "No, I'm getting out of here." "No way! I can't believe it." "Really? You seem like you're the guy for this." Yep, but I'm leaving.
Okay, well, that pretty much covered everything I think I wanted to talk about. Is there any last things you want to add in? Anything we missed?
Well, at the end of the day, serving in the military follows you for the rest of your life in a positive way.
Mhm.
People thank me for my service. I get discounts at places, and you know, I didn't go into combat. I almost went into combat more than anyone, I think. But I'm glad. I think everyone should. I would be happy if it was mandatory that everyone served. Mandatory if everyone served 2 years, because I think people that serve are far more patriotic and respectful of what people have given,
Mhm.
so that we can have the freedoms to act like fools. And some people just think we can act like fools, but they don't understand why we can act like fools. I have my rights. Well, there's a reason you have your rights.
Yeah.
So you can't, if you make it a good experience, because it's not just going to be a good experience on its own, right? You got to make it happen. It's a choice. And then, yeah. So the benefit on the positive side when you get out is it, you know, I know it's a job. I know I can do it. I'm going to do it. It's got to be done. We're going to get it done. It's a, you know, it's a whole set of very positive attributes that I've carried with me since I got out that have only helped me. There's nothing that I took from that has hurt me outside of, if you could have taken 20 people out of the military that I met, been a great experience all the way through. Unfortunately, were those 20 or so that made it hard.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this has been informational. I definitely learned some things I didn't know before.
Okay.
I think that covers everything. All right, thank you.
You're welcome, kind sir.